Well, Sabbath greetings to everyone. I'm getting this recorded a little bit later than I wanted to. It is actually Sabbath here in Sussex. I hope you had a great week. I tell you, it's very common around the holy days, isn't it, to find yourself distracted. It seems like all kinds of distractions can certainly happen at any time, but especially around the spring holy days and to some degree around the fall holy days as well. It seems like Satan is busy trying to distract, and I can attest to that this past week. I want to get through the proverb for this week, but first of all, I just update you a little bit. We had a wonderful trip to Little Rock area. It was a whirlwind trip. It was quite frankly exhausting, but very overall very profitable. Unfortunately, we had found a home and had made an offer and had the subsequent counter offers and whatnot, but finally just this morning officially that fell through, and we walked away from that particular home. So we have made another offer on a different home and are waiting to hear whether that has been accepted or not. So it's always interesting when you're starting this process and you're limited in time. So I know that all things work together for good. I do feel like the other house dropped out. It just didn't work out because it wasn't the house for us. I'm very, very confident that God is in charge of these things, that He can guide these situations so that we can get into the right home and be able to transition there in the area and have the right home for the family. So it was a great trip, and the reality of the move certainly begins to sort of sink in a little bit more. But I do feel, again, very confident that God is very well in charge of those types of things and knows exactly what He's doing. So I'm not going to belabor that, but appreciate your prayers. I can feel those prayers very much so, and appreciate them very, very much. So let's get into the proverb here. I missed Proverbs 24 last week, so we're going to pick up there in Proverbs 24. It's a long chapter here, so we'll try to go through it as quickly as we can. But there's some great, obviously, words of wisdom in here. Of course, the Proverbs are for the collection and the wisdom that has been imparted primarily through Solomon and all of the dealings that he had in his very illustrious and somewhat sordid life. Proverbs 24 and verse 1, do not be envious of evil men. Sometimes that is something we pick up on in this world, is that people are envious of evil men. You think about all the people that are put on a pedestal in this world, and they envy these people, and yet when you get right down to it, they're usually the people of very, very low character that happen to prosper in this world. So he's saying, don't be envious of evil men, nor desire to be with them. For their heart devises violence, and their lips talk of troublemaking. They're always trying to come up with some new form of trouble to get into. Verse 3, through wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. So there's that metaphor. Building a house. It's through wisdom that you build a house. By understanding it's established. By knowledge the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. So it is important, to look at that metaphor of building a house, filling the rooms with pleasant things, with precious things and riches. Metaphorically speaking, a family is where all the wealth is. If we spend time together, we're busy building our house on wisdom, making good choices for our family. It's like precious and pleasant riches. And not that there's anything wrong with that physically. That's why the metaphor is so important, because it's not wrong to have those types of things as long as it's done in wisdom. And verse 5, a wise man is strong, yes, a man of knowledge increases strength. For by wise counsel you will wage your own war, and in a multitude of counselors there's safety. So this is a very important verse for all of us to understand, that sometimes we can't get there on our own. So, God has built this into the Proverbs in many different places, that we need to seek a multitude of counselors. Get a variety of opinions on certain things, especially before you make any big decisions. Try to cast your net wide and make sure that you're looking at all of the all of the different ramifications of certain big decisions, and seek a multitude of counselors, because there's safety there. You can bounce ideas off of a lot of different people. By wise counsel, you'll wage your own war. And we are in a type of a warfare. So we do need to understand we're not alone. There are others who we need to rely on to bounce ideas off of, our spouses, our friends in the church, and others, our family, those that we trust in that sense. We need to be doing that. Wisdom is too lofty for a fool. He does not open his mouth in the gate. So wisdom is too lofty for a fool. He does not open his mouth in the gate. He who plots to do evil will be called a schemer. So, again, this important, vastly important. And James talks about the idea of controlling the mouth. It is one of, if we can do that, then we're perfect, right? That's the implication there. So constantly being aware of what we're saying, and even not just what we're saying, but how we're saying it, is very, very important. In verse 9, he says, the devising of foolishness is sin. So even devising foolishness is sin. And the scoffer is an abomination to men. Verse 10, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. That's where the rubber meets the road. When those difficult times come, if we faint and we lose heart, then our strength is small. So we're supposed to be ready and prepared as best we can by seeking God on a daily basis and being prepared for whatever may come about in any given day. Verse 11, deliver those who are drawn toward death and hold back those stumbling to the slaughter. We have a responsibility to warn the world of the impending tribulation. And those things are coming upon this world, and we have a responsibility. If you say, surely we did not know this, does not he who weighs the hearts consider it? He who keeps your soul, does he not know it? And will he not render to each man according to his deeds, according to his works? We all need to be involved in the work. Every day our prayers, and every time we write a check, or in this day and age, every time we press a button that sends those resources to headquarters, we can pray about it, ask God to multiply it, to do this work, to greatly multiply those gifts and the tithes and offerings of the brethren, so that we can do the work and help to warn people who are stumbling to the slaughter. And we've got a job to do in that way. In verse 13, my son, eat honey because it's good, and the honeycomb which is sweet to your taste. So there are other places not to eat too much honey, but honey's good. God created those things to be enjoyed in moderation. But the principle is there, that we can enjoy it, but in moderation. Verse 14, so shall the knowledge of wisdom be to your soul. If you have found it, there is a prospect, and your hope will not be cut off. So this whole thing works together. Eat honey because it's good, the honeycomb which is sweet to your taste. So shall the knowledge of wisdom be to your soul. So again, always understanding that we're always learning. Every day we should be picking up new things, new principles. We should be thinking every day about what we say and how we're carrying ourselves, because it's important in terms of the hope that we won't be cut off. We've got a responsibility to make sure that we do that on a daily basis. In verse 15, do not lie in wait, O wicked man, against the dwelling of the righteous. Do not plunder his resting place. For a righteous man may fall 7 times and rise again, for the wicked shall fall by calamity. That is one of my favorite scriptures in all of the Bible. A righteous man may fall 7 times and rise again, but the wicked shall fall by calamity. So, we're a tenacious group. God's called out ones, led by His Spirit. We're not perfect. And there are times when we fall down, we make mistakes. It's important to remember that this Passover season, that we will make mistakes, and we need to examine ourselves. We need to take it seriously. We never allow sin, take that sin lightly. But we look at it for what it is. We understand it destroys us. And we understand in the metaphor here that we may fall 7 times, but we get back up. We rise again. We don't let that overcome us. We overcome evil with good. We understand, we acknowledge that sin, we ask for forgiveness, and then we rise up and go forward. Verse 17, do not rejoice when your enemy falls, and do not let your heart be glad when he stumbles, lest the Lord see it and it displease him, and he turn away his wrath from him. God says, vengeance is mine, I will repay. But if we get to the point where we start, rejoicing in the fall of our enemies, and when things happen to those who may do something against us, God says, well, I'm in charge. I could take that all away. I could turn that situation around. And that, if you really think about it, that may not be what's best for them. If God is correcting and working with those people that are doing the righteous wrong, we don't want to turn that around on them. Maybe that will make an impact in their lives. But if we start boasting in the fall of our enemies, then God says, I may just turn that all around. And we wouldn't want that. We want to have the right attitude about what happens, even to our enemies. We want to love our enemies, as Jesus said, love your enemies. Let's see here. There will be no prospect, verse 20, for the evil man. The lamp of the wicked will be put out. God is going to deal with the wicked. My son, fear the Lord and the king. Do not associate with those given to change, for their calamity will rise suddenly, and who knows the ruin those two can bring. So again, fear God and the king. Fear God and the king. This is about government, the government of God, and understanding that the government of God extends to the way that we look at the governments of this world. We fear God and the king. God establishes kings. He establishes rulers. He puts those things in place for His ultimate purpose. So we have to make sure that we fear God and the king and have a right attitude about that. Their calamity, do not associate with those given to change. This is important, for their calamity will rise suddenly, and who knows the ruin those two can bring. So when you understand the whole thing here, we have to fear God, fear the king, and beware of those who don't associate with those given to change. Their calamity will come suddenly. So we need to don't associate. In one sense, you might look at this as not associating with the flip-floppers, those who are always just changing in wishy-washy manner. But look for those that are stable, those that are solid, and associate with them, and always put that your emphasis on fearing God and fearing the king, fearing the rulers, knowing that God's the one who puts them in their position. In verse 23, these things also belong to the wise. It's not good to show partiality in judgment. He who says to the wicked, you are righteous, him the people will curse, nations will abhor him, but those who rebuke the wicked will have delight, and a good blessing will come upon them. We need to get through these quickly. I'm going way long here. Prepare your outside work. Make it fit for yourself in the field, and afterward build your house. Make sure you get the ground ready first. Milk and then meat. All of those types of metaphors too. We got to make sure we have a strong foundation. You got to make sure you're working the field first, getting it ready for your house, getting the land cleared properly. Do not be a witness against your neighbor without cause, for you would deceive. Would you deceive with your lips? Do not say, I will do to him just as he has done to me. I will render to the man according to his work. So we don't get involved in revenge and that type of thing. There's a big movie coming out, a remake of, I think it's called Death Wish or something like that. It's a remake of an old movie, but it all centers around the concept of revenge. God is not pleased with that idea and that concept at all. He says vengeance is His. He will repay. We don't need to be dealing in that kind of thing. I went by the field, this verse 30, I went by the field of the lazy man, and by the vineyard of the man devoid of understanding. And there it was, all overgrown with thorns. Its surface was covered with nettles, its stone wall was broken down. When I saw it, I considered it well. I looked on it and received instruction. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. So shall your poverty come like a prowler, and your need like an armed man. You truly reap what you sow. If you don't take care of things, if you're lazy, then everything around you sort of crumbles. It crumbles around you. You can't build anything of any lasting value if you're lazy. So we don't want to get into that mindset. We want to be hardworking. We want to be diligent, no matter what we're doing. I believe it was Martin Luther King who said, if you're a street sweeper, then be the best street sweeper there is. Do it with all your might, no matter what your hand finds to do. Well, brethren, we look forward to